Hey everyone, what is up? It's Wednesday. You know what that means. Sandra, Herrera, and Lisa Carlin bringing you a very special Attacking Third episode. We're continuing our countdown to KC, recapping the 2016 NWSL Final. We have a very special interview coming on from that final. Forward Jess McDonald. She joins the show to chat about it and everything else that's going on in the world of football. And then, of course, we have our In Case You Missed It news and notes segment, but we're taking a deep dive in that segment into the W Champions Cup, and we'll touch on some other things. But Sandra, before we get to all of it, it is good to see you. Good morning. How's it going? And we're wearing kits today, so hit me with what you're wearing.
It's going good. Again, I'm going to say this every week that we hop on one of these, Lisa. I love this segment. So happy we're doing this little series, little project together. I get to do that alongside you. It's always my favorite thing. And of course, we're rocking kits, trying to keep it loosey goosey. I'm keeping the theme with as many Latin American kits as possible. I've been rocking a lot of Mexico kits today. I'm going to go with Liga MX. I got a Tigres kit on. I like the all blue, the blue on blue, the kind of gradient texture going on. So that's what I'm rolling with today.
It's beautiful. It looks great on you. It makes your eyes pop, bud. I'm just going to say it. If you're only listening as a podcast, join us on youtube.com/attacking third. You can see our kits and vote on whose is better throughout the show. I know our community loves that, chiming into what we're doing. So let us know if you're with us live on YouTube in the chat. Who do you like better? I'm rocking a USL Super League Brooklyn FC kit. This is absolutely fire. We have the pinstripes going, the little collar. It's like cream off color. Shout out to Brooklyn for sending this to me. But I love this one and wanted to rock it because in our In Case You Missed It segment, we are going to chat a little USL Super League and some of the updates to the schedule that's happening. But it's a good one. I'm glad we threw these on today. We weren't sure right before the show. I was like, should I put it on? Should I not? I'm glad we are.
We're going to vibe today.
We are going to vibe today. We also are very happy to announce that Attacking Third has been recognized by the Football Content Awards. We are nominated in the Best in Women's Football category. Thank you, everyone, so much. We have been chosen, Sandra, from over 36,000 nominations across 34 categories. Now we are finalists to be winners, and that's why we're telling you guys, because now is where you come in, the listeners, the people that watch and tune into us, because it is up to you to vote and decide who wins. The link is in our chat. There's a QR code on YouTube right now. If you're joining us, the link will be in the podcast description, and follow us across socials, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at Attacking Third for the link to vote. You have until October 13th. So vote for Attacking Third, the Best in Women's Football and the Football Content Awards. Thank you for showing us so much love, so much support. We cannot do it without y'all. Thank you. Tell a friend to vote for Attacking Third. It is our countdown to Kansas City segment. We absolutely love these. So from now until the NWSL Championship, which is set for November 23rd at CPKC Stadium in Kansas City, you can watch it on CBS at 8 p.m. And if you're wanting to attend, tickets are now live at NWSLsoccer.com. Get your tickets. But we are revisiting every past NWSL final and championship. Last week, we hit up the 2015 final. This week, we are doing the 2016 NWSL final between the Washington Spirit and the Western New York Flash. I'm not burying in the lead because this happened 8 years ago. The New York Flash win ultimately. It took them a bit to get there. We're going to dive into absolutely all of it. Western New York Flash, we're back in the championship for the first time since 2013, and Washington make their first final appearance. The 2016 final was at a neutral site, BBVA Compass Stadium in Houston, Texas. It took place Sunday, October 9th at 5 p.m. Eastern. Over 8,000 fans in attendance in Houston. And I love throwing this question to you, Sandra. Before we did our research for this segment, how much of it did you already know? Did you already remember? And how much of it did you have to go back and look up and rewatch the game, rewatch the highlights?
Oh, God bless the 2016 NWSL season. I think there was a little part of me that was really excited to build ourselves up to this moment, because for me, it has personal significance. This was the first NWSL championship final that I made the decision to take in person. So it feels, the memories still feel as fresh as they were yesterday, last year's final when I was out there in San Diego. And I was just so excited to get to this moment because I think there's some layers to this championship that we'll talk about, for both of these teams that met in the final and how things kind of played out along the way.
Absolutely. The playoffs were lined up like this. So Washington Spirit, they finished second in the standings behind Portland. Washington had 39 points. Crystal Dunn, a forward on this Washington side, she had a number of goals throughout the year, a number of assists. She was electric up top. And goalkeeper Steph LeBay came into the finals on 5 clean sheets. Western New York Flash, meanwhile, they finished fourth in the final playoff position in 2016 with 32 points. At that point in the season, forward Lynn Williams on the Flash had 11 goals. Forward Jess McDonald had 10 goals. Jess also led the team with 7 assists. She was second in the league that year. In the playoffs for both of these sides, the Western New York Flash took on Shield winners Portland. That ends in extra time, 4-3 to the Flash. There was also 6 yellows, a scrappy first semifinal game for the Flash and the Thorns. Meanwhile, Washington Spirit, they took on third place Chicago Red Stars. It was a 2-1 win to the Spirit, also in extra time. Now, this was your Chicago team, Sandra, who still is your Chicago team. Do you remember this semi between Washington and the Red Stars?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Lisa, I'll even take it a step further. This was such a up and down season. I believe that this was just the year where maybe the league was trying to figure out best practices, and they kind of maybe introduced, or were thinking about introducing, like regional rivalries, right? Trying to like limit traveling so teams only faced each other a certain amount of times. And to close out the regular season, the Spirit and the Red Stars faced each other in what was ultimately the final regular season home game. And the Red Stars absolutely dominated the Spirit in like just the week prior that they had to ultimately meet in the semifinal. So there was some mixed energy around it. It was like, okay, this Chicago Red Stars team is very special. They're putting together a very good season. Kristen Press is 100% who she is. We're looking at the core of Chicago's team. They're now in kind of like a, not a sophomore season, but that draft class is in like a junior season. They're looking like seasoned pros. And then you have this semifinal that goes into extra time. And it just felt like that was a natural conclusion that those two teams were going to need maybe a little bit of extra time to kind of figure things out, because they had literally just faced each other the week prior to close out the regular season.
I
And
love that. I love that.
of course, it was, Franny Ortega who delivers the final knife to that incredible season for Chicago. But it was an equally incredible season for the Spirit, because they were also playing on a bit of a mission themselves. It looked like they were playing with a bit of intention, because they were this team that also saw themselves in the mix of postseason conversations. And now maybe this was going to be the season that they broke through.
2016 was a really pivotal year in the NWSL because it was its 4th year of existence, and the previous professional leagues in the United States had all collapsed after 3 seasons. So the fact that the NWSL was in its 4th year gave everyone, fans, players, coaches, media personnel, butterflies almost, right? Because it was finally, we had kind of gotten over the 3rd year hump, and we are in the 4th year of existence. The energy is different. The fans are showing out. And we got to see that in the 2016 season. Of course, the semis leading up to the huge final that took place in October in Houston. Washington Spirit against Western New York Flash. We've got lineups coming at you. Take us through Washington Spirit, Sandra. Who did they roll out with for the 2016 NWSL Final?
Yeah, absolutely. What a team. It was Kelsey Weiss holding things down in goal, Caprice Didasco, Shalina Zadorsky, Megan Oyster, Ali Krieger, Tori Huser, Christine Nairn, Whitney Church, Franny Ortega, Crystal Dunn, and Estefania Banini to round out their starting 11. What a team.
Oh, it's so funny to like see some of these names, right?
Yeah.
Like, still playing in the league, whether they've just retired. It's crazy. It actually makes me feel pretty old.
Yeah.
It does. It does.
There's been layers of that in this project that we're doing too. In this series, we're definitely like, oh, we've been around.
Yeah. So Megan Oyster, who you mentioned, who was playing center back alongside Shalina Zadorsky, now Megan Montefusco
with the
still plays
pride.
though, but married, name change. We try to keep you guys updated on who these players were and who they are. We try our best.
Yeah.
For Western New York Flash, they rolled out with Sabrina D'Angelo in goal. Across the back line, it was Jaylene Hinkle, Alana Kennedy, and Elizabeth Eddy as the center backs, or as one center back, Abby Dahlkemper, and then Elizabeth Eddy in the back line in the midfield. Abby Urseg, McCall Zarboni, Sam Mewis, and Mackenzie Doniak. Up top, it was dynamic duo Lynn Williams and Jess McDonald. We talk about feeling old and kind of crazy. So many of these players still play in the league or still involved in the league at a very high level. Pretty cool to think about. For Western New York Flash, they were being coached in this final by acting head coach Scott Vallow. Their head coach at the time had received yellows in the semi, so unavailable. That was Paul Riley. And a number of subs that came into this game, including Taylor Smith and Kristen Hamilton for the Flash in this game. But this was a back and forth game on both sides of things. Washington goes up and then the Flash come back. Washington scores again. It was so back and forth. But Sandra, even more special than us talking about the game is you were there. You got to be in Houston at the 2016 NWSL Final. Take us through that experience.
Yeah, buddy, it was cool. I'm not gonna lie. There was a newness about it for me because, like I said, it was the first one that I was gonna attend. So it was excited to have my ticket to attend what is supposed to be the biggest show in women's American professional soccer. But it was also Houston, so it was incredibly hot during the time, and that was also part of the narrative and the storylines going into this final. So while I was there to try to give some coverage, in a media capacity, I still definitely wanted to catch this game on the sidelines and up close and personal. And it was doozy for lack of a better word. There was excitement in the beginning. There was obviously a ton of drama towards the end. There were some tough moments and stretches throughout that game as well. This is also the game where Caprice Idasco unfortunately sustained an ACL injury, and then the trajectory of her career shifts a little bit before she makes an incredible comeback to ultimately win Defender of the Year later on. I believe it was in 2021. But I think for me, what was so unique about this, and having had some time to attach and kind of think about it, there was also an equal amount of chatter around the NWSL final and its current trajectory at the time about how this event looked and felt and what it was going to look and feel like in future events. This was only year 2 of a neutral site, Lisa. So a whole predetermined selected site for the final. And part of that shift was to make this feel like a big event for NWSL, that this was the culmination of things, a celebration of sorts alongside 2 teams going head to head for a title. And with that always comes the chatter around what can be done better, because some of the things I remember again was the heat, the very excessive heat, how tough that was, bright sun, the fact that maybe with a build up to time to plan around a neutral site, ticket sales maybe weren't as ideal, or I think I certainly know it was below 10,000, and that was for a final considered maybe a little bit disappointing. Although I had a blast and I had fun, I'm someone who's locked in and invested in there. But in terms of like making something a marquee event to attract like a casual, there were a lot of conversations about how that can go moving forward. So it was a great trip. I went with friends. Shout out to Chelsea. Shout out to Liz, who I sat with on the sidelines to take in this game. I also want to shout out Jen Cooper as well, because she's, deeply invested in the Houston area, and got to give the keeper some respect here, because talk about being ahead of the moment understood the opportunity in front of NWSL and Houston as a market, and had an event. I believe it was like a little kind of a WOSO community event, and people could go and hang out. And I went to that. I attended that. It was a lot of fun. Got to interact with a lot of people who are passionate about the league and the space. And a former Houston Dash player by the name of Haley Carter was still very active in Houston circles, and spoke at that event as well. And this was long before her days as an incredible GM for the Pride. But it was a beautiful moment, because it's just like this. It gives you that feeling. You're just like, oh, like this is sort of like where it all happens, and you get to see all these things come to life. So while there were maybe some mixed, interpretations of the final end product, the beginnings of something special, you could still feel were being built along the way.
It became an event, it seems like, with people talking and organized things. And maybe I shouldn't say so event and organized, because they seem still a bit grassroots led, right? You shouted out Jen Cooper, who is a local to Houston and is able to kind of bring in those people and encourage that community to come together. And being at a neutral site, it does change things in terms of fans, right? Because if you're Portland Thorns and you're hosting the final, you're more likely to get a couple fans out. And when we talked about the 2015 NWSL final, we saw a huge bump in attendance, 3 times what it was in 2014, but that's also on the heels of the 2015 Women's World Cup. So there are still elements of growth that are happening, but that doesn't mean that there weren't still fans there. I mean, you talked about the events, the people you heard spoke, and there were fans in Houston for this final. What do you remember? Was it Flash heavy? Was it Washington heavy? Or was it really neutral in the stands?
There was a good contingency of Spirit supporters for sure. I think as far as the game and what it was giving, you could feel how neutral it was. There were moments where you heard like Ali Krieger chants, Spirit chants, but then as a game gives what it gives, you heard people kind of like getting behind the Flash at times, which is I think what you kind of want, from a neutral site. But I think anybody who made it out there that day at an afternoon kickoff for Houston, Texas, God bless them. If you were there, say hey.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Definitely let us know if you attended the 2016 NWSL final in Houston, on socials, live with us on YouTube. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and let us know if you were there. Kickoff happens between Washington and Western New York Flash. An electric game, to be honest. I watched it back, the full game back. It is on YouTube. Shout out to our producer, Mark, for finding it for us. I love rewatching these games. So 9 minutes in, Washington on the front foot, the inevitable Crystal Dunn. She gives the 1-0 lead to Washington Spirit. The assist coming from Megan Montefusco Nee Oyster. Back then she was Megan Oyster. And it looked like Washington was just kind of gonna roll for a little bit. Then Sam Ewis, she gets the opportunity to strike first for the Flash, assisted by Lynn Williams, and it's all tied up 15 minutes into this match. It was fireworks right from the get. Then there was a long stretch of back and forth play. There was aggression. There was really good chances for both sides, good saves by the keepers. But second half action, 91st minute, right? So it goes into extra time, and we get a goal from Crystal Dunn. So she ends up with a brace in this match by the 91st minute. Ali Krieger getting the assist.
Oh, boy.
And now Washington is winning 2-1. It seems like this is how it's going to end. And this is in extra time, which both semifinals had gone into extra time, and now the final. So it felt normal, right? That this was going to 120 minutes. Of course, we get stoppage time. It's nothing like it is today. So 4 minutes, 5 minutes of added time at the end of extra time. And you can't count out the dynamic duo of Jess McDonald and Lynn Williams, because in the 124th minute, the 4th minute of stoppage time at the end of extra time, Jess McDonald just drops this absolutely gorgeously placed ball into the mixer. And Lynn Williams, with 2 or 3 defenders on her, she rises above and just heads this ball into the back of the net. 2-2, we're going to penalties. When you think back to the 120 minutes of play, Sandra, did you feel like there was one way that this game was going to lead, whether it's Washington or Flash?
Yeah, absolutely. Going into this final, I absolutely thought the Spirit were gonna snatch this up. And their start to this game kind of gave that a little bit. They were a little bit more active. They had a little bit more of the ball in terms of possession and what they were going to do with it. But the Flash did a very good job of keeping things even. And I don't just mean in terms of like the equalizer. There was a little bit of a midfield battle at times. I mean, this is an era of a Flash locker room with players who are gonna. This is the beginning for them. They end up playing together for a long time in a different iteration of North Carolina Courage, and we'll talk about that in the future. But we see them figuring things out. They had a little bit of a reputation in this league as kind of like they're going to come back and bite you, and they have nothing to lose, and that's a dangerous team to go up against. And that's exactly kind of how they played in this final, despite the Spirit kind of looking like they had a little bit more stretches of control during the game. I mean, I remember Sam Mewis's equalizer and being like, why are they giving her that much space? And then she gets that equalizer. Crystal Dunn getting the go-ahead goal in early extra time, where it just felt like that's it. It's going to be the perfect ending to their season. Krieger to Dunn finish. But then you have Lynn Williams come up with this equalizer. So it was some very, very fun starts to the beginning of the regulation, of extra time, and then bits of drama after drama after drama. And I think definitely felt like I got my money's worth for sure.
I wonder how much were NWSL Final tickets back then? Do you have any remember?
Oh my goodness! You know what? I should have pulled up those receipts.
Yeah.
I could tell
You
you.
got your money's worth made me think like, I wonder how much it took.
I did treat myself, and I got myself a nice seat. So I want to say it was probably higher than maybe some other ones. It was my first one. I had to go all out for
And
this
at
one.
your first one, Sandra, you got extra time and you also got penalties, because this game between Western New York Flash and Washington goes into penalty kicks. Up first, there's Dahlkemper, then Krieger, then Hinkle, then Naren, then Jess McDonald, Katie Stengel, Lynn Williams, Huster, Mewis, and Matheson. And for Sabrina D'Angelo, she was the goalkeeper for Western New York Flash. She comes up with 3 huge saves for Western New York Flash during this penalty kick shootout. It actually wasn't the best shootout. It was pretty bad, a little bit sloppy. I mean, 3 saves by a goalkeeper is great. And shout out to D'Angelo, but they weren't like the best shot kicks that she saved. Like she still made the saves, and that still has to happen. But there were some bad shots. I love you, Jess McDonald, and she's going to join us to chat about this. Hers was pretty bad.
Bad.
She skies it over the top bar, and she could have won it at that point too, which is heartbreaker. But it doesn't matter, because in the end, Western New York Flash win on penalties 3-2 over Washington. But the Pens, Sandra, they were a little rough there for a minute.
I think that's what is so funny about this particular final, right? Because we're talking about the things that it's giving. And the truth is, one of the things that it also gave was probably one of the worst penalty kick shootouts that we've seen in American women's domestic pro soccer. Just tough. And you have to imagine that a lot of it was managing the conditions of a game. It was these are 2 teams that we said came off of extra time in their semis. Now they're playing in that hot, sweltering Texas heat. They go extra times, they go to pens. It's a lot to manage in the moment. So maybe that was reflected in some of the penalties, because equality, right? It was both. There were some tough misses on the Spirit side and on the New York Western Flash side. So we're talking about level playing fields here of badness.
Bad ones for the first ever penalty shootout in an NWSL final. Ultimately, goalkeeper for Western New York Flash, Sabrina D'Angelo, is named the MVP of the final, the first goalkeeper to win it, not only because her play in the 120 minutes of play, but her 3 huge saves in the penalty shootout. Lynn Williams ends the season as the Golden Boot winner, 11 goals in the regular season. She was also, at the end of the finals, named the league MVP of that year. It was a good one. Western New York Flash lift the trophy. If you're with us live on youtube.com/attacking third watching it, we're throwing up a lot of great throwback pictures. Lynn Williams looks like a baby.
Yep.
She looks really young in a lot of these photos. It's cool to see her and how she has continued to progress and stay at the top of her game, even now in 2024 in the NWSL. Don't go anywhere, guys. We have a very special interview joining us. Jess McDonald, who got the equalizing assist at the end of extra time to send it into penalties. She was a legend on that team. She still is a legend, a mom, World Cup winner. She joins us next on Attacking Third to chat all about that 2016 NWSL Final. Welcome back to Attacking Third. We are pleased now to be joined by 2019 Women's World Cup champion. She won so many NWSL champions, a couple of NWSL shields, and MVP. We'll throw that into the mix. The all-star, Jess McDonald. Jess, how's it going?
Oh, excellent. Thanks so much for having me, y'all. I mean, it took a good century for me to get on the show, but hey, I'm not holding anything against you, but I am excited to be on the show. So thank you so much for having me.
She's already given us slack. She's
I
already
love it. Look, it's natural though. It's like she's always been a part of this spiritually. Like your aura has always been part of A3. Like you were one of the players that showed us a lot of love early on. So
yeah, no, I love the show.
Much for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And now you've stepped into the other side, right? You're broadcasting now. You're a mom. You're doing all the things. So you've been busy. Don't put it all on us, Jess.
Yeah,
don't put it all on us.
No, I really have been. I will give you that. I really have been. They keep me on my toes.
Thanks for joining us now. We are chatting the 2016 NWSL Final. Congratulations on that. We're throwing it back to that because it's all about 2016. Congrats on winning the final. You were with Western New York Flash. You defeated Washington Spirit in penalty kicks. But when you think back to the 2016 NWSL Championship, what memory comes to mind?
Memory comes to mind, and I'll be taking this one to my grave because this was such a jaw-dropping moment in the game. And I don't know if there's any play in a championship that can really top this one, but my assist to Lynn Williams with 20 seconds left to go in double overtime before we go to penalties. We're down 2-1. I mean, you could say it was Western New York Flash versus Washington Spirit, but it was really Western New York Flash versus Crystal Dunn, because she was at her peak as a striker in her pro career. And I mean, she's slicing and dicing us, but I mean, it was one of those Hail Marys, like goalkeeper misses the ball. I find Lynn Williams' head and wide open net. She just heads it right in. And it was just a jaw dropping moment to the point we were so tired that I couldn't even run to Lynn to go celebrate because I was so tired. It was like the 122nd minute of the game. So that was, it reminded me of like the Megan Rapinoe to Abby Wambach in the Olympics against Brazil, like last second header, like Hail Mary moment. And that was probably one of the top highlights of my entire playing career because that tied the game up 2-2 to take us into penalties.
Oh my goodness. I chills just listening to it.
Yeah. All the staff for Spirit, they were coming down to celebrate. They were handing them the trophy. They were giving them their shirts. And then it was like everything just paused in that moment. So yeah, it was nuts.
Maybe a little bit like oversharing time for the audience. I remember for me, this was my first championship final that I attended like in person. I was like, I got to get to these NWSL championship finals. Like this is the big event to cap off the seasons. Like you want to support the league. It's like, let's get there. So I remember buying a ticket, making my way to Houston, maybe to stick with some of that energy about the exhaustion, this was only the second year where there was like a neutral site, a predetermined site for the championship final that kicked off. It was always kind of given to the higher seed, but in 2015 that changed, and in 2016 it was year 2 of that. But we're talking Houston, Texas, afternoon kickoff, hotter than you know what.
Exactly.
I mean, what do you remember about those conditions? Can you still feel the heat at some moments when
I'm still feeling it. I'm still recovering from it. I'm still getting IVs from it. Yeah, mama was struggling out there. I'll never forget. Yeah. And we were a high pressing team to top it off. So it was like, we're like this all game. And I'm like, okay, we need a break. There was no such thing as like hydration breaks either at the time, you guys. It was a struggle, but hey, we hung in there.
So at this final, of course, you go into extra time. You talked about it, the equalizing assist that you served to Lynn Williams, but you also went to extra time in the semis too before you got to the final. And then in the final, you take that again one step further into the penalties, and ultimately you win. But what do you remember about the end of extra time before penalties? You just talked about how exhausted you were. You couldn't even run to Lynn to celebrate.
Yeah.
I rewatched the game. You just stand there with your hands up.
Yeah, I literally just go like this.
Yeah.
Like, thank God.
Yeah. So what was next between that, the end of extra time, and then penalties? What do you remember about that?
Well, we considered ourselves the underdogs, sort of the junkyard dogs that year, and we prided ourselves on being a fit team. So we prided ourselves being this high pressing, very fit team, and then going into penalties, we had prepared for it. Our coach at the time was very adamant about penalties just in case. We'd worked on them for weeks before playoffs even started. So we knew in order who was going to be taking them. And we knew in that moment that we had the confidence to step up to the plate and be able to succeed, at least winning in penalties.
Yeah. Okay. We're entering the moment where it happens, right? This is the first time a final goes to penalty kicks even. We go from blistering hot sun to finally it has set, gets a little darker. But the penalties that take place in this shootout, and we got to talk about both sides here because some of them are like questionable at best. How much of that is a combination of the exhaustion, the physical toll of the conditions versus, maybe just regular athlete brain,
Yeah, you know what? It's honestly all of the above. It can be nerves for one. It can be the pitch for two. I know y'all are probably gonna want me to break down my penalty, and I'll let you know what happened in that moment. But nerves is definitely one. Focus. Taking penalties is not as easy as people think. It's really not. You can practice this thing a million times, and then when it comes to the big moment to obviously succeed, it's hard, and it's mental toughness at that point. It's mental competitiveness at that point. It's like, okay, looking up at the goalkeeper, seeing which way she's going to shift. It's all about your technique, how much power you're going to get on it, exhaustion. Like you said, we went into double overtime. I mean, it's a long list of things that go into that one moment where it's supposed to be easy. It's supposed to look easy, but it's really not when you step up to the plate in that moment. So it's a long list of things that affect your penalty.
Ultimately, New York, you guys win 3-2 on penalties. D'Angelo, the goalkeeper, comes up with 3 huge stops. You go third for Western New York Flash, Jess.
Yeah.
What happened?
Oh, man. And that would have sealed the game for us. I would have won us the final if I would have scored mine because they had already missed theirs. So it was like, okay, we just need one more. I'm like, okay.
It was 2-1 at that point for your third kick.
Yeah. So we're stepping up. And I'm like, okay, took my deep breath. I took my steps. I went through my whole routine, you guys. Put the ball down, went through my whole routine, took a deep breath. Ref blew the whistle. And I step up. I know exactly where I'm going. I know I'm going high to my left, goalkeeper's right. I saw the keeper shift to her left, my right. I knew where she was going, and I knew where I was going. And I knew I needed to hit it with power. You guys, there was sand right where the penalty was taken. There was a pile of sand. if you watch closely, and I watched the replay of my penalty 100 times, you see all of this sand shooting up with the ball. You guys, I shot this ball so hard and up, and I'm pretty sure it left the stadium. I didn't see where the ball actually landed, but it's still in orbit, and it's 2024. The final was in 2016, so it's been 8 years, and I'm still waiting for it to come down from orbit. So I know I smacked the crap out of it, but I also hit a lot of sand that was on that field when I hit the ball. I got under it too much, obviously. That's why I hit so much sand. But that like affected the way that I kicked the ball. And I just walked away, just put my head down, and I was like, dang, that was bad.
I mean, like at that point, like, what are you gonna do, right? You're gonna be like, well,
hey, but you know what? I didn't fuss about it because we were already up in penalties. So I was like, okay, I was dead center. You know, I could have helped seal the deal, or at least the next person would have won it for us. But I was just like, dang, well, we're still up. So, oh well.
Well, Jess, 8 years later, you finally get to, get that off your chest.
Yeah.
I love it.
Let it go. Let it go. We know it was the sand. It wasn't you, because you are a heck of a goal scorer. That year alone, you had 10 goals, 7 assists, including the one in the extra time to send it into penalties. So don't worry. That's not your legacy.
I'm not even worried, but you know what? That's been ingrained in my brain now, to the point where I have not taken a penalty ever since. So I was one and done. So all of my goals that I've scored in my pro career, not one is a penalty. So being top goal scorer of all time in NWSL, I can pride myself and say I'm the only one in the top of scoring in NWSL that does not have one single penalty. All the other goal scorers have penalties. They have lots and lots of penalties. I don't have one.
Jess, that's awesome.
That's
pretty cool.
Boom.
That's a pretty cool stat. You have a lot of cool accolades and records, but that one is pretty unique.
Yeah.
That tops it. That might top
it. I pride myself.
Yes, that's yours. Keep it.
Yes, it's mine.
100%, 100%.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what happened with your kick, because the Flash go on, they win the final. Take us in the locker room post-game. What were these celebrations like?
Well, it was nuts. Honestly, it was a blur. We're blasting music. We've got the trophy, taking pictures with the trophy. It's our first championship. And I can't remember which teammate it was in the locker room, but one of them was just like, what happened this season? Because we went into that season dead last in rankings. We were dead last. We were a bunch of, when I say nobodies, we were a bunch of nobodies. I mean, I didn't have a name yet. No one knew who Lynn Williams was. No one knew who Jaylene Hinkle was. Sam Mewis, Abby Dahlkemper, Abby Urseg. I mean, we were stacked. Sobs D'Angelo, she was making her way up with the Canadian national team. I mean, a bunch of just nobodies. And for us to make it all the way to that, it was like, holy crap, we did that. And then, you guys, we literally had to get on a flight back to Western New York Flash. We had a very early flight. It was almost a red eye. So it was like celebrations, hotel, nap, airport. Some people almost missed the bus going to the airport. Like a crazy evening. There were no bars open. I think one was open till like 10 p.m. and we got in like the last 5 minutes, listened to the last few songs, and then we had to go to the hotel and then basically get ready and pack. So we didn't have much time to celebrate, but like locker room was lit for as long as we could be there. And then it was like we went out for a few minutes. When I say a few minutes, it was a few minutes in Houston, and then airport back to Western New York. So yeah.
I love that you touched on that and how you all were celebrating, because I remember that. Like I mentioned that this was attending my first NWSL final, and this was really the season where I was like, I want to, try to commit myself to doing more coverage of the game and covering women's soccer and NWSL specifically. And I remember all of those, whatever people had their rankings or the prediction. Everyone loves a good preseason post, right? And yes, you're 100% correct. Can co-sign 9th. And I believe there's a very iconic quote from Mewis during these celebrations where she goes, they had us last, or they had us 9th, like, yep. And she's referring to those moments. Mm-hmm. So I love it. I think that's what made that locker room so special, and to watch that team go on the run that they did to kind of not only close out the season, but get through into the final, because it looked different back then. We're talking just top 4 teams, only the semifinal round, and then a championship. So sticking with that a little bit, that's what I want to kind of lean into and kind of spin it forward with you. You are someone with this Western New York Flash team in 2016 who goes on to win even more titles with this, with many members of this locker room. And we're going to get into those much later as we revisit all of these championships. But for you, in terms of this event, in terms of this moment, this marquee event, how has this final, the event, the marquee moments progressed from 2016 throughout your experiences to now? Because there's parts of these celebrations that we see throughout visiting some of these early ones, Jess, where we're watching players have to hold up their own championship sign. You know, there's medals on tables to the left. You know, there's maybe a confetti, cannon. Can you talk to me a little bit about the progression of the NWSL Championship as an event from 2016 to the ones you've been through to today?
Yeah, man, I wish we had those bonuses that they get nowadays back in 2016. That would have helped Mama out a lot, especially with childcare, boy. Oh yeah. It was like, in the championship for 2016, we got tennis shoes and some t-shirts basically. And then moving on to going to the championship in 2017, 18, and 19, they started to add bonuses towards 2018 and 2019, and then getting more gear. So, and you look at it now, I mean, it's 10 times that. And so just watching the progression of this league has been nothing short of amazing. But, a lot of us, we had to pave the way somehow. And that's exactly what we did. And the ladies now who are playing in the league, who are going for that trophy, deserve that bonus, deserve, the extra attention, deserve the revenue, deserve the flowers basically. But honestly, it's like night and day. It really is. And we clawed our way through this league, but being able to stick with it all with the same core of players was honestly just cherry on top when it comes to my playing career, because between 10 and 12 of us, we played for a solid 7 years together consistently. And that's what made us so successful, is how well we knew each other on the field, but obviously being very close off the field as well. That's it's just night and day. That's the only way I can explain the championship now in comparison to, ones just 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So many of the players, even on that championship team that played in that game with you, still play, still compete. There's been so much change on the pitch and off the pitch from 2016 to now. And we would not be in 2024 with 14 teams in the league and expanded playoffs and big bonuses and players signing multi-year $1 million contracts without the 2016, where there was no bonus and it was rough. What would you tell yourself, knowing what you know now, at being on both sides of the game, right? As a player in last year and broadcasting it this year and knowing everything you know, what would you tell yourself back in 2016?
It'll get better. If I knew this is how it was going to be, telling myself it'll get better, because this was a time frame where a lot of us were working, full-time jobs as well, just trying to make ends meet. And, in 2016, I think I was getting like 18 grand, in the league. And that was the season was only 6 months at the time, if I can remember correctly. So half a year, and the other half, you have to figure out your life. And so I think if I knew this is how it was going to be, I would definitely be like, hey, it's going to get better. So it's going to be okay. Because it was, it was a fight through blood, sweat, and tears. We went through a lot of things that no one can possibly imagine, but that's just a way you just have to pave the way and gut it out. And that's what a lot of us did, honestly, because we love the game. It's for the love of the game at the end of the day. But now, since 2019, from the lawsuit with the U.S. Women's National Team. It's like, okay, now we deserve some cheddar now, you know? So I think that's what kind of started all of this. And now look at the progression of the game for the NWSL. It's nothing short of amazing at this point.
Yeah, 100%. I'm just basking in it, like listening to you talk. I'm like, man, it's crazy because, you know, I think just there's a certain moment in time, I think, when we're going through this kind of historical segment that we're doing on A3, we're just like, let's revisit every single final. And you look at all of these finals and you can know these very tangible changes that take place from year to year. And still, we're talking margins, like very minimal type stuff, like even from like how we're recapping from 2013 even now just to 2016, and some of the things that have changed, they're just the smallest of things. So just listening to you say that, my hope as well is to see things even more different from 23 to 24 and 24 and beyond, and I'm sure that we will, because it kind of feels like things are trending in a much better direction, we'll just say. But as far as kind of sticking with this and kind of looking ahead, you have found yourself now, like off of the pitch, commenting on these things. You're doing an interview here with us now. We get to see you on broadcast. We get to see you break things down with you know, the analytical side of things. So I'd like to touch a little bit about what we're witnessing right now in this season, because I referenced this Western New York Flash as a very special team because of how they were rated as, like you mentioned, those underdogs, and you guys took it a step further as junkyard dogs. And we're watching a lot of fun storylines in this season in 2024. Orlando Pride feel like they are doing something very special right now. Not to put you on the spot, do you think with 4 games left at the time of us doing this interview that they can go undefeated the entire way?
Absolutely. Yeah. Seb Hines put something in their water over there. I think, you know, before preseason even started, have y'all ever seen the Space Jam movie with Michael Jordan?
Yes.
You know, I think they all had that Michael Jordan water that they drank at halftime, you know, and
yeah,
you know, they went up against the Monstars and they came out the big dogs, basically, like Tweety Bird, you know, came out a big dog. So that's Orlando Pride this season. They've got something special, very special going on this season that it's hard to break when you're on that momentum. When you have that kind of confidence, especially as a pro athlete, and you're doing it as a team, it is so hard to break that. When you're doing great behind the ball and on the ball, that's hard to break. And no matter what you do as a team, if I'm a head coach going up against Orlando Pride, obviously I'm going to try and change things, tweak things. Okay, these are the passing lanes that you have to take away to keep Barbara Banda off the ball. We can do whatever we want. We can prepare as well as we possibly can going up against the big dogs, Orlando Pride, but it's hard to break still. And I have to bring this up because someone texted me, because I feel like this is almost the same vibe that we had as North Carolina Courage in the 2018-2019 season. Obviously, we didn't go the whole season being undefeated. I think 2018 we lost one or two games. And someone texted me recently, and I want to start this on Twitter. I'm happy I'm on Attacking Third today, because someone was like, hey, who do you think would win out of the 2024 Orlando Pride and the 2018-2019 Courage team? And I'm like, whoa, that would be a sick matchup.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we've arrived.
We were the big dogs. It was hard to break our system. You know, we had the 4-4-2 system, which was hard to break. We had the box midfield, which was hard to break. You can go into that game and prepare all you want, but it was hard to break. I've been in an environment like that. So it's the same for Orlando Pride, and they've switched things up throughout their season, but they continue to succeed. And I wanted to start that question on Twitter.
So who would win? Who would win, Jess?
Hey, I gotta go with my team. We had
Sam
Lewis, we had Dabinia, we had McCall Zerboni when she was at her peak. We had both Abby Ursig, Abby Dahlkemper at their peaks. I mean, we had Jay Hinkle, probably the best left back in the world at the time. We had Sabs D'Angelo, we had Steph LeBay in goal. You know, we had Caitlin Rowland. And I mean, me and Lynn Williams, I would say probably one of the best duos in the NWSL history. at our peak,
Hands down.
humbly speaking. So, I mean, just the fact that we had Sam Lewis, I mean,
it's a big one.
It's tough. Sam and Marta going at it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that pick. That's
a
good comparison between those two teams. 18-19, you guys at North Carolina won the Shield and the championship those years. Yep. Is that possible for Orlando this year?
Absolutely.
Make it through playoffs.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, another 2024 prediction and look at some things, because we're seeing history being made with Temwa Chawinga, the forward at Kansas City Current, who is electric. She is so fun to watch. She just netted her 17th goal this past weekend. The record that was set in 2019 by Sam Kerr is 18 goals. Does Chawinga break that record for single season goals? And what does she get to potentially?
100%. I would say Chawinga is getting to 20 goals this season. I'm calling 20 for Chawinga because she is a rare breed of a footballer. And what I mean by that is if you look at probably about 80% of her goals, she is turning absolutely nothing into something.
Yep.
You're like, ain't no way she's about to turn 4 of these defenders, break the midfield line, zigzag through the whole back line, then go against the goalkeeper 1v1. I mean, how many times have we seen Chawinga do that this season? I mean, quite a bit. So I will say she's breaking Sam Kerr's record this year. So welcome to the NWSL, Chawinga. Take a bow. You are nothing but amazing, sister.
Absolutely love that shout, Jess. I think so too. Orlando's going to go all the way. Chawinga is going to break the record. I think 20 goals as well before we even get to playoffs. Now, there are more games this year for Sam Kerr, but it doesn't matter. A record broken is a record broken. I love that one. Jess, at Attacking Third, we are curating an A3 playlist that we can share with everyone and that people get to jam out to. So we're asking people that come on our show, hey, what are you listening to these days? So for Jess McDonald, what is a go-to song on your playlist right now that we get to add to ours?
A go-to song, I would say In the End by Linkin Park.
Ooh.
Yeah. That's been one of my day one songs since high school. And I've been listening to it for every pregame from every sport that I've played to professional level for soccer. So you can see that song for sure on all of my playlists, basically all my pump up playlists, from workout playlists, pregame playlists. Even if I'm jamming out in the car, that song is always going to be coming on.
That's a good one. It's got a good build up. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the lead singer, he is from Arizona, Glendale, Arizona, my hometown. So he went to my rival high school. So
that's cool.
There you go. Supporting the local band.
Yeah.
I love the shout. Okay, Jess, where people that listen to you and on Attacking Third today and can watch you on YouTube, but give us a day in the life of Jess. Where can people find you now? What are you up to these days? Give the people what they want to know a little bit more, J-Mac.
Yeah, I have found myself living in Michigan, trying to network my butt off out here because I don't know anyone here. So it's different, but just it's been a joy being a mom of 2 kids now. But not only that, but being at home with them more. I don't have to focus on my career as much. I don't have like that selfish mindset as a pro athlete, training, recovery, that's an all day thing. People don't know our routines as pro athletes. And so being able to focus on my kids has been just such a joy. And just watching, I have a 12-year-old, he's in 7th grade, watching him just grow into a young man and being there with him to watch it happen, and my little one, he's 10 months now. He's able to travel with me to the studio in Atlanta at ION. So just being on my own schedule is just a joy, and it's such a relief. So my transition from playing pro into broadcasting was just smooth as butter. And I'm so grateful and so blessed for that opportunity, because I started off doing it in Australia for the Women's World Cup. Optus Sport, they gave me a chance when I didn't have any experience whatsoever. And so I told my agent, yeah, this is what I want to do. And so watching so many of my friends and even my brother go through the struggles of playing pro into not figuring out what you want to do. Whereas me, I tried to get ahead and make sure my transition was smooth because I have kids, obviously. And so being able to just play and then talk about the game moving forward. And most of them are my friends. Most of the teams I play for, you know, I think I still hold the record in NWSL for most teams play for. Y'all might have to look that one up. But just knowing the game, knowing the NWSL, I mean, the ins and outs of the league is so helpful for my job now. Honestly, life has been just absolutely fantastic. I honestly have no complaints, and my body feels good. So
Yes.
now, and my body feels fantastic to top it off.
Awesome. It's
Yeah.
awesome. And you're absolutely crushing it, right? It's cool
Appreciate
to hear
it.
that you could
Yeah.
make that transition because it is scary and it's
It
hard
is.
to change what you're doing and what you've known for so long. 7 clubs in the NWSL.
Yes.
Is what you've done.
Yes.
And you hold the assist record right now.
I do.
USL. You
Hanging on.
But you hold it.
Yes.
You hold it.
I'm still holding it. Lynn, I need you to slow down, sister, for the next 4 games at least. And I'm okay. So I can wait till next season for her to break it. But
absolutely. Give her a follow on Instagram at jmac1422. And if you want to get in on her Twitter conversation, she's great on Twitter. She threw that one out there about the 2018-2019 North Carolina against Orlando this year. It's at j_mac1422. Jess, thank you. This was awesome.
Let us know, people. Thanks for having me. Thanks, you guys.
Don't go anywhere. Plenty more Attacking Third when we get back. Third, we are now doing our In Case You Missed It news and notes segment. Before we get into it, though, Sandra, you've changed your appearance. You got some accessories wrapped around your neck. What are you wearing right now?
I was so moved by that interview that we had with Jess McDonald. I was like, I love not only revisiting these things, but living in the time machine with friends. And so I was like, you know what I have from that final is the neutral site championship scarf, which very correctly is in kind of like Houston Dash colors a little bit, you know, and just in case, like, I love that on this scarf that just in case you didn't know where it was on the other side, they tell you that it's definitely in the state of Texas, in the city of Houston. And it's one of those summer scarves as well, because, you know, it's hotter than you know what. And in case you need to get your brow. But I figured I'd bust it out because I'm just like, yeah, what a time it was.
Put it in the Hall of Fame. Put it in the museum of NWSL. Yeah. It's cool. I honestly like that they put Houston, Texas on the reverse side of it, because then you always know. Because now think of how many you have stacked in your bin, right? Hanging up in your room, all the different scarves, and you always know that one's from Houston, 2016. Oh, yeah. In case you missed it, guys, the CONCACAF W Champions Cup is currently happening. We are in the group stage as that continues. This is a tournament qualifying teams for the FIFA Club World Cup. 2 matches last night in match day 4 of 5 of the group stage. We're going to recap those. Vancouver Whitecaps took on San Diego Wave. That happened Tuesday, October 1st, so just last night. Ultimately, San Diego Wave won 2-0 over Vancouver. 2 second-half goals, less than 10 minutes apart for San Diego, were the difference maker. San Diego absolutely dominated in this game. 32 shots to just 2 for Vancouver. Vancouver couldn't even register a shot on target. So the 2 that they did give Vancouver, generous. I'm going to be generous. San Diego had 13 corners. It was insane, just absolute dominance. But in the second half, it was Caitlin Torpy and Amira Ali getting on the score sheet for San Diego. And ultimately, the Wave win this one over Vancouver Whitecaps. And now San Diego is head of Group B. They are top of the standings with 9 points. There's still one more match day in this group. But in Group B, Sandra, with San Diego and Vancouver, how do you think things are going to shake out in the end for these 2?
I think San Diego is somehow utilizing Champions Cup as the vehicle to maybe steer themselves in a better direction. We have seen them put together some decent performances in this competition that has significance. There are stakes involved here. These matches, this tournament, this cup format is serving as a qualifier for a future Women's Club World Cup. So if you're an NWSL side in this competition, you absolutely want to have good performances, because there's a shot you're going to represent something much bigger in the near future. San Diego Wave is doing a good job of that. They're the only team right now within this entire competition that has 3 consecutive wins in their group stages. But the other side of that coin, Lisa, is I think that we talk about in fairness to some of these competitions that we've covered over the last year or so, is that it serves a purpose. CONCACAF has gone through a little bit of restructuring when we talk about cup competitions for the region. And it's to expand not only the competition for teams involved, whether it's internationally or in this case for club, but to make sure that it is spreading around and it's not just maybe centralized in certain areas of the region. So with that, these are a lot of firsts. Like, we got to see this first iteration of the Gold Cup, and with that came the road to the Gold Cup and qualifiers, and we got to see even more nations participate in that. And when you do that, when you really expand that, and when you are kind of stepping onto a first type of stage, we see some of the gaps, right? We see some of the discrepancy maybe in the talent pools and things like that. So I'm thrilled for this competition. I'm thrilled for NWSL teams doing well. And shout out to the Liga MX Femenil teams that are hanging tough in there as well. But you could see leagues that have been around for a little bit versus some leagues that are finding their footing. And kind of the differences there. And I think we see that pretty evidently as we're kind of hitting this midway point of the group stage for this competition.
Almost done. Match day 5 for San Diego Wave will happen Wednesday, October 16th. They'll take on Club America, who is second in the group. So just behind San Diego, only 3 points behind them. There's another match in Group B last night, Tuesday, October 1st. This one took place in the Pacific Northwest at Providence Park. Portland Thorns hosting Santa Fe. Now, in this group stage, Santa Fe is already eliminated, but still a big opportunity for them to go to Portland, the arguably soccer capital of America, and compete against a Portland Thorns side. And that's exactly what they did. So ultimately, Portland get the 2-1 win over Santa Fe. It starts early for the Thorns. Izzy DeKilla, gets a penalty in the 10th minute for the Thorns. And then the rookie Peyton Linehan doubles the lead in the 64th minute. So it's 2-0. Thorns have the lead. And in the 82nd minute, there is some disarray out of the back for the Thorns. I don't know. Is this like a brain fart or a mental lapse that we saw? It was Shelby Hogan, the goalkeeper for Portland, having a free kick, probably 20 yards right of her defending goal outside the 18-yard box. And she tries to pass it centrally to a Thorns defender, presumably. I'm just going to presume on this one. And it is a clear giveaway. It is a clear giveaway, and Santa Fe gets one back. It was kind of a little bit of right place, right time, but also execution by Narori Marquez. It is a gift, hands down, 2-1, and Santa Fe changed things in the second half. In the first half, Santa Fe really only had one shot, and they had 12 in the second half. But Portland ultimately wins 3 points, and they finish second in Group B. So it's San Diego at the top of Group B with 9 points. Then Club America behind them at 6 points. Portland in 6 points. Vancouver Whitecaps at 3 points. And Santa Fe already eliminated, fifth in Group B with 0 points. Now, the next match day, Sandra, we get to see a couple of these different teams go at it. So Vancouver will take on Portland Thorns Tuesday, October 15th, and San Diego will take on Club America. Now, Portland can advance out of the group, but they need some help from San Diego based on how the group is going to shake out. So if San Diego wins and Portland win, then both NWSL teams advance. When you look at Group B, who's getting out of the group?
Oh my goodness. Look, I'm not trying to show any favoritism here by any means, but I think it's going to be hard to stop San Diego. I think they're showing us who they are in this competition. So I'm going to go with the Wave to kind of pull things out here.
I love that. I agree. I think that San Diego is going to get the win when they take on Club America, but it's going to be tight. It's interesting though, because San Diego is doing a really good job of rotating, getting some different players, scoring opportunities and moments, with Amir Ali getting on the score sheet last night and Jaden Shaw coming back into more regular minutes. But I'm also going to go with Portland and San Diego getting out of the group. We have 2 more matches in the CONCACAF W Champions Cup this week. Tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, it is Frazsiers Whip taking on Gotham FC. So this is in Group A. It is match day 4. This game happening in Jamaica. Gotham is currently second in Group A. They have 4 points, 1 win, 1 draw. Frazsiers Whip, they are in last place. They haven't picked up any points so far, 3 straight losses. Frazsiers Whip is a Jamaican club team, Sandra, their full name is Frazsiers Whip Football Limited. But tell us a little bit about them. What do we need to know about Frazsiers Whip? What's cool about this club?
Well, first of all, I think what's cool about this club is the name. Like, I hate to just simplify it, but I'm just like, you see Frazsiers Whip, like that's just cool and different and fun. But I think like some other teams involved in this competition, they're a club team that are representing a nation in this competition through their domestic club play. And we get to see maybe some examples of important pieces for the youth system coming up for these regions. So I think folks are maybe taking a look at that with like Vancouver and how there's a lot of good young talent there. And for Frazsiers Whip, I think you could see shades of that and similarities of that. There are players on this team that have ties to U17, U20 squads that participated in the Pan American Games in Chile. So when we're talking about Jamaica at the international level, there are players on Frazsiers Whip that eventually are going to probably see themselves as more, regular pieces of perhaps that senior level national team. So, for some folks who are, really invested in Jamaica's program, maybe, the names like, Latoya Duhaney, Destiny Powell, maybe are some names that stick out there. But we definitely had to show them some love because again, we're getting the midpoint of this competition and we're starting to see teams either who are eliminated or getting eliminated. And that's an opportunity for folks to maybe get another look at this team as only a couple games are left remaining.
Frazsiers Whip gaining fans and supporters all over the world, including in our live chat on YouTube. People loving the name, as do you, as do I. So Gotham takes on Frazsiers Whip. I mean, for Gotham, this is 3 games in 6 days last week. And then they have this. It's their second of 3 in 8 days this week. So just a lot of competition and congestion for Gotham FC. They take on Frazsiers Whip tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Yeah, check that match out. We will talk a little bit about it on Attacking Third tomorrow. Some other news and notes that we have to run through. Update out of Houston Dash. This has been a long time coming. Officially, the Houston Dash and head coach Fran Alonso have parted ways. Ricky Clark, who has been serving as the interim head coach since late June, will lead the team through the remainder of the season. Clark stepped in when Alonso went on leave, and it's now been 3 months. He's officially out. Clark is in for the time being. And Houston Dash are also without a GM. Remember, Alex Singer and the club parted ways a month or so back. So they can't hire a new head coach yet. They have to hire a GM first, and then they get to hire a coach. But it is chaos at Houston Dash for the last 2 seasons, I'm going to say. So from 2022 to 2024, the Dash have seen 6 coaching changes. It was Sarah Loudon who came in as an acting coach. Then they hired Juan Carlos Amoros at the end of 2022, who ultimately left to go to Gotham and, mind you, win a championship. Then Sam Lady lasted about 13 months. Then Sarah Loudon came back in. Fran Alonso was hired at the start of 24. He's no longer there. And Ricky Clark. Chaos potentially at Houston. Do you have any updates or anything Sandra?
No updates as of right now, other than I think what the club has given us. They're going to do a search to bring somebody in to fulfill this role. And I mean, Lisa, just listening to you run down even just the couple of seasons that this franchise has gone through. I mean, let alone take a deep dive on the entire history of their tenure in NWSL, which I know we're going to do in tomorrow's show, but it's beyond concerning, I think, at this point. And these are things, these moves, these actions or lack of action are things that not only affect players at this rate, at this club, but we're talking about things that affect the franchise in terms of staffing level, obviously fans and supporters as well. There's very notably and understandably concern, worry, and honestly anger and frustration by fans, supporters, season ticket holders at how this club has operated since their arrival to the league. So this, unfortunately, is just another very loaded chapter in what is becoming a very long, concerning story for Houston Dash.
Yeah, we'll keep you updated on everything unfolding with the Houston Dash. Of course, more on that tomorrow in Attacking Third's Thursday show. A big update out of the USL Super League. They have unveiled their spring schedule for 2024-2025 regular season. So the season is split into two. They are going to take a little break in the middle, but the spring schedule will kick off Saturday, February 15th. It'll end Saturday, May 31st, and then we get playoffs. This is the first time we've heard announcement of playoffs, what's going to happen in the postseason for the S League. The top 4 teams will qualify. It'll be single elimination, a fixed bracket format. So 2 semifinals and a final. Right now, the USL Super League is currently in week 8 of the fall schedule. Carolina Ascent FC, they're at the top of the table with 11 points, and Brooklyn FC close behind with 10 points. And to end on another positive note for Brooklyn FC, I have won the jersey poll in today's episode, 57% to Sandra's 43. It was a close one, Sandra. But
I like it.
Everyone.
I love the closeness, but come on, really, y'all? It's Hispanic Heritage Month. What are y'all doing? Come on, really? Right in front of my Heritage Month? What are you doing?
I'm fancy. I have a collar.
You do have a collar. It is such a good jersey. Shout out Brooklyn FC.
Thanks, everyone, so much. Don't worry, we've got more Attacking Third tomorrow. YouTube.com/Attacking Third at 11 a.m. Preview the weekend in the NWSL, the Super League, W Champions Cup. We also have another interview tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. And don't forget to vote for us in the Football Content Awards for the Best in Women's Football category. We appreciate your support. Thank you, thank you, thank you. There's a QR code on our screen right now and link in the podcast YouTube description and on our socials. Thanks everyone so much for joining us. Make sure you follow Attacking Third wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a 5-star rating and review. We're also available youtube.com/Attacking Third, and you can watch us on the CBS Sports Golazo Network for all your women's football coverage. For Mark and Sandra, I'm Lisa. This was Attacking Third.